Okay, take two. Like I promised earlier in the other episode that I just uploaded, I am going to do more music stuff on my podcast here. And today we're going to be looking at some high energy digital hardcore with a chaotic edge. And I'm sure that you can see the title so you know who it is already. I will say they're a band that I actually saw live back in 1998 in the city of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So I can at least say that about them. I saw them live. They were performing with Ministry at the time. So, welcome to Critical Weight Theory, where sometimes we can act as if we're some some counterculture chronicles over here. So, I'm going to dive into the movements, music, and mayhem that challenge the status quo from time to time. It's a fun thing to do. Sort of like, stage diving without having to face the injury. Um, if you're a wuss like me, and if you're simply over 40 like me, you're not going to necessarily want to stage dive anymore. Not like I ever did stage dive, because I live in the middle of nowhere and I don't have concerts where stage diving is a regular thing, but you know what I mean. Anyway, I'm your host, Wade, and today we're exploring the unapologetically loud, chaotic, noisy, and politically charged world of Atari Teenage Riot, which is a band that's definitely not going to be for everybody. I'll just say that right off the bat. They are a German digital hardcore band that set the 1990s on fire, both figuratively and maybe to some extent literally. So they were formed in 1992 in Berlin. Atari Teenage Riot, or ATR, was the brainchild of Alec Empire, Hanin Elias, and MC Carl Crack. Their mission? To push the boundaries of music, politics, and activism, creating a genre that would later be known as digital hardcore. ATR's sound is a furious fusion of punk rock's raw aggression and techno's relentless energy. They rejected anything resembling mainstream rock and embodied the anti establishment ethos of hardcore punk. But ATR wasn't just about the music, they were intended as a movement from the very start, with lyrics tackling themes like anti fascism, anti capitalism, and digital freedom. They had songs with titles like Hunt Down the Nazis, which was a deliberately inflammatory title. It became a rallying cry for some against right wing extremism, and it was a stance that resonates even more today as the ideologies gain traction globally. The far right bullcrap that a lot of us are grappling with today. So in the 1990s, ATR's live shows blurred the lines between performance and protest. Their concerts were often controversial, chaotic events that sometimes ended in violence, not necessarily because of the band, but because of the incendiary atmosphere they created. There's a technical distinction to be made there because they weren't, as far as I know, they weren't really dragged into court over the few flare ups that would happen. They weren't put in prison on a permanent basis or anything like that. So, for example, from what I've read, there was a 1999 performance at a protest against NATO's bombing of Yugoslavia. As they played Revolution Action, a massive conflict erupted between, it says, 30,000 protesters and the police, leading to the band's arrest for inciting violence. But apparently they did get away with the so-called inciting of violence because they're still going. I don't know if I'd say they're going strong, but they're still going on today. Because you don't hear that much about ATR that much. I have to be honest about that. People don't really talk about them a whole lot. So this is almost more like a nostalgic episode, to be honest. But, at the end of the day, they did have some influence. They had albums, and they have a type of legacy that, is worth commenting on. So ATR's discography, it's a real mix. Their debut album, Delete Yourself, in 1995, introduced the world to their sonic chaos. The Future of War in 1997 continued their aggressive political commentary, and 60-Second Wipeout in 1999 expanded their sound with guest artists like rappers The Arsonists. Now, I have mixed feelings about their music. I'll be honest about that too. Like, some of their tracks, they're a little bit too noisy and chaotic, and it's kind of hard to even tell what they're saying sometimes. But other times, it's perfectly fine. It's an acquired taste sort of music, so I obviously can't say that you will acquire that taste, but they do have fans, and hopefully I'm not pissing them off too much by sounding like I'm done playing the band, but I'm just saying they're a mixed bag. In 1997, ATR toured with heavyweights like Wu Tang Clan, Rage Against the Machine, and even Nine Inch Nails. So that shows some of their wide ranging appeal, even in the face of their confrontational style. But the band, they had turbulence throughout their career. After signing with Phonogram Records in 1993, ATR took their financial advance and used it to set up their own label, Digital Hardcore Recordings, without ever delivering a commercially viable demo to the label. That act of defiance sort of epitomized ATR's ethos: resistance over profit, rebellion over conformity, and they really didn't care what the record company thought or felt about it, apparently. So, despite their success, the band has faced significant challenges, like so many of them do. In 2001, Carl Crack tragically passed away from an overdose after a long struggle with psychiatric issues. ATR disbanded shortly after, but their legacy was still there to stay, and you might be able to hear their music on Atari Teenage Riot 1992 through 2000, which came out in 2006. It's a collection of their most influential tracks. But in 2010, Alec Empire revived ATR with new members, Nick Endo and Rowdy Superstar, reigniting their digital hardcore spirit for a new generation. While Hanin Elias, one of the original members, expressed interest in rejoining for concerts, she ultimately had to step back due to vocal issues, from what I understand. Maybe that was because she was doing a lot of screaming and shouting during those shows. Maybe it was just too much for her voice to handle. Because if you listen to some of those recordings that have Hanin Elias on them, yeah, she was outright screaming a lot, and probably not with the methods that would be recommended by voice trainers. So that's probably why, or at least a part of why, she did not continue. But I think she did have a solo career. She might still be making music for all I know. I don't know. I haven't really been up to date on that. But Atari Teenage Riot's legacy isn't just their music, it's their message, of course. They stood against oppression, exploitation, and fascism, using their sound to scream what others only whispered. They remained a potent reminder of the power of art to challenge the status quo, even when it's messy, chaotic, and controversial. And I kind of respect them for that reason alone, even if their music isn't always, you know, something that I'm going to be listening to every single day. So I would say they still matter today. You know what I mean? They still kind of matter. Their message feels as relevant now as it did in the 90s. The rise of right wing extremism isn't just a relic of the past, it's a present day reality. In Europe, studies by the European Parliament reveal a disturbing increase in xenophobic attitudes, with many citizens unwilling to live near marginalized groups. So that's another reason why ATR and their message could be seen as important. In the US, the story isn't much different. ATR's defiance against such ideologies could serve as a call to action for anyone who believes in a more inclusive and equitable world. So, like I said, ATR's music is not for everyone. It's more angry and wild than introspective or mild or melancholic. But, that's the point. ATR channels the chaos of the world and spits it back with amplified fury. So, you might want to at some point check them out. Like I said, they're a mixed bag, so you might want to go through the tracks and find the ones that you like the most, and sort of like make a mix of their best of material according to you. And they're they're sources of noise, distortion, and static, but it's a noise, distortion, and static that many of us could listen to. So that about wraps it up for now. Thanks for joining me on this little journey into the radical world of Atari Teenage Riot. Whether or not you're a fan of their style, you can't deny the impact they've had on music, activism, and the fight against injustice, even if it wasn't as strong of an impact as they would have liked or as I would have liked. So tune in next time. I'm sure I'll have some more musical analysis, or maybe it'll be a movie review, or what have you. I'll do a deep dive into the people and movements shaking up our world, whether it's the good guys or the bad guys. So until the next episode, stay loud, stay rebellious, and keep pushing back. You know, one of these days, you know, things things will change. Things have to get worse before they get better. I pretty firmly believe that. And hopefully we can make things better. And if not, we're still going to make a lot of noise, right?